October 4th, 2013. From El Cajon, California, this is episode 30 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. My name is Mark Duvall, and as usual, joining me is Dr. Mike.
Hello.
So we're about a month away from our Atlantic City trip.
Yep, pretty close to a month.
Yeah, so I thought we'd talk about that just briefly. We're going on Veterans Day weekend.
Correct.
So that's November 8th through the 11th.
Correct.
We're actually getting there like early Friday night, the 8th.
Yeah, well, I don't know how early. We'll probably be getting there about 9.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Atlantic City
Yeah,
time.
You're right. Yeah. So we actually, probably by the time we get all settled in, it'll be late.
It'll be late, right?
Yeah. And
that doesn't mean that we'll go to bed or anything.
No, that's
we'll
crazy
talk
talk.
About that.
Yeah,
we'll say that we're going to go to bed. We're going to get up.
That'll be the smart thing to do.
Yeah, we're going to get a nice, good night's sleep, get up in the morning and enjoy the early morning gaming.
Yeah.
And then we'll stay up all night.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know that's what your dad's going to do.
My dad will be lucky if he gets maybe 8 hours total sleep for the whole weekend.
And then we're going to be leaving on Monday. What is it, like late afternoon is our flight?
Yeah.
So we'll probably have to leave Atlantic City.
Noon, 1 o'clock.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
So anyway, we'll
early
be there
afternoon.
all day on Saturday and Sunday. We don't really have any plans to formally set up any kind of get-together with listeners, mainly because we've never been to Atlantic City before, right? So we don't know
nothing about it.
Yeah, we don't know where we're going to be, but we're going to be tweeting the whole time. Pretty aggressively, I think, when we just go from place to place. So if you're going to be in the area, certainly follow us on Twitter and you'll be able to catch up with us.
Try and go to as many of the casinos as we can.
Yeah.
However, we probably will, frequent the Caesars properties the most.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it's going to be hard to drag you away from a table if I want to go to another casino.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Well, let's talk about this off the air. We got an email from listener Jeff. He was actually responding to an email that we got previously from listener Brian. Brian had talked about how he had been at a craps table at the Showboat in Las Vegas, and he had inadvertently put his hands down when the dice were in the air, and the dice hit his hands. 7
came up.
Yeah, and a 7 came up. And the dealer said to him, "Thanks for the bet, sir." And Brian took that to be, him just, oh, thanks a lot. The casino wins. Way to go.
Right.
Well, anyway, Jeff wrote in and he said, I was a dice dealer for 2 years in Missouri, so I wanted to suggest something that wasn't brought up. Whenever a player 7'd out, I would often say, thanks for the bets to the whole table as a thank you to players who were making two-way bets, bets for the dealers, tips for the dealers. As a general reminder to those who didn't.
Yeah, they often do that to remind people that you can tip the dealers.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for all the bets. Now, he goes on to say, I wasn't there, so who knows what really happened. And yeah, we weren't there. Obviously, Brian, and in Brian's email, he actually said, thanks for the bet, sir. Like it was directed at him.
Yeah, correct.
And I assume Brian wasn't tipping, so it wasn't, I don't know.
Who knows?
But that is something to keep in mind. Of course, Brian knows exactly what happened. He was there and he could tell what the tone is and what have you.
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with tone.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe that, Jeff makes a good point. Maybe that's all the dealer was doing. But, we've certainly been around crews of dealers or individual dealers that have just been terrible to be around.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we've said this before. If you're on a table, whether it be craps or blackjack or whatever, and there's a dealer who, for whatever reason, is not in a good mood or is, kind of abusive or just rubs you the wrong way, just leave.
Yeah.
Right? Go somewhere else, go to another table, and don't sit there and frustrate yourself with that.
Yeah.
It's hard. And then when you're at a table with a dealer who's nice and friendly and talkative and you're really having a rapport, make sure you tip them.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be a fun time for you. So if you're just miserable because it's one thing if you're miserable because you're losing.
Right.
We know what that's like.
We know what that's like.
But you shouldn't be miserable because the dealer's a jerk too. So.
And there, to be honest, all the gambling we've done, there's not that many miserable dealers. I mean,
no, usually
they go
they're
out
good.
of their way.
Yeah.
Most of the time at most places, they are, they have to be, right? Otherwise, their night's terrible too.
Yeah.
They've got to spend 8 hours doing that.
I remember once we were at the Sands, the old Sands in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And we were there for some kind of overnight junket. This was back when you used to like travel agents would have these deals where you'd go to Vegas, and if you played a certain amount, you'd get the airfare free. Mm-hmm. It was you, me, and Paul, and we were sitting at a blackjack table. I don't know if you remember this. And this dealer, very nice young woman, came up, and you could tell she was in kind of a bad mood.
The one with the nice hands?
Nice arms.
Arms, that was it.
So she was in a bad mood, and she wasn't rude or anything. You could tell just that she didn't want to be there.
Right.
And you kind of charmed her to the point where she was actually laughing and having a good time by the end of it.
Right.
And yeah, it really got her when you said, yeah, this dealer's kind of reminds me of our friend Angela. And I said, oh, really? Why? Well, her arms. Her arms kind of are like Angela's arms. And she, what? Yeah. Oh, yeah, you remind me of my friend's arms.
She liked that. Yeah, I remember after that she perked up and
yeah, it was like
a
huge difference. Yeah, you turned her around.
Well, that woman probably was coming, who knows what was going on in her personal life and stuff. And then she has to sit there with a bunch of, people who get pissed off because she dealt them 12.
Right.
Yep. And so she was just looking for a little entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we gave her, well, you did. You were on fire that night. We got another email from listener Saul. He was asking, how do you feel about hedge bets in craps? I've heard so much about the Iron Cross, the NE7 with C&E on the come out, but we'd like to know your opinions on them. He listens to the show with his wife. Have you ever tried them? How about the fire bet or the sharpshooter bet? Sharpshooter is kind of like a fire bet also. Right. So I wrote back to him and I said, we're pretty much against hedge bets because they generally have a pretty big house edge.
Correct.
And it dilutes any advantage that you might have on, the bet that's out there already.
Right.
Right. I mean, maybe there are times to make hedge bets if you're betting, like you've got a big football wager. Let's say you bet on the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season and it was a long shot and your team is going to pay 100 to 1 and they make it to the Super Bowl, right, and you put like $10 on them at 100 to 1. Well, you might want to bet on the other team too,
right?
So that you're guaranteed to win. A hedge bet like that's not bad.
That makes sense.
But at the craps table, not really. It's kind of a bad bet.
But that being said,
having said that,
we do make a lot of hedge bets at the craps table. At least I do.
Especially Mike.
At least I do. I mean, for me, a lot of times what happens is I hit a hard 8. And I always start with, $5 or $10 on them. So I'll hit a $10 hard 8 and I parlay it to 100.
Right. So now he's got like $100 on
I got a $100 hard 8 and I like him working on the come out. So I'll work my hard way on the come out and I'll bet a 3-way 7 in case 7 comes up. Uh-huh. And I'll bet an easy 8. I'll hop the easy 8. So, I'll give him, say, $20, $10 on 5-3, $10 on 6-2.
Yeah.
And it's not a good move because in the long run,
right,
it's burned me. I lose way more money.
Yep.
And my advice would be to anybody playing craps, don't do that.
Right.
But I like to do it. It's, I play very aggressive.
Yeah.
And I'm going for the big win.
Yeah.
And and it's so much fun when, they come out again on a hard 8 and you're $900, right?
Right. Or they do roll that easy 8 and you're okay,
and
right?
You're okay,
you get paid, or the 7.
Or the 7 comes up. I mean, you should at least have the 7.
Yeah. At least.
Yeah, at least. But, so I can't say that I don't make hedge bets because I do quite often.
Now, see, this is why you're a good gambler, because you're making these bets. They're bad.
Oh, I know they're
bad.
But
you're having fun, right? So you're an intelligent gambler making a bad move, basically.
Right, exactly. But if I was doing this for a living,
oh well,
or I was like down to my last $200, let's say,
yeah,
and I needed to, make that last, I would not be making those bets.
No, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be playing craps, actually. But
yeah, you should probably be, maybe
I'd be playing
working more hours, or spending time with your family,
or being at the poker table.
Oh yeah, that's that. Yeah,
taking advantage of other people's bad play.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so basically, that's our opinion on hedge bets. Now, Saul does mention the Iron Cross bet in craps, and that it's kind of a system. What it is you bet money on the field. And to remind everybody, the field gets paid when 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12 come up.
No 5, no 6, no 8, no 7.
Right. So they're no 5, no 6, no 7, no 8. And those are numbers that come up quite a bit, right? So in the Iron Cross, what you do is you make a field bet and then you place the 5, the 6, and the 8 for about the same amount of money. So the idea is that the only time you're going to lose is when a 7 comes up, and you will win some money, at least some money, when any other number comes up. Right? Because again, all those numbers in the field come up, you win. If a 5 comes up, you lose your field bet, but you win your $5, your place bet on the 5. Same with the 6 and the 8, right? You win the place bet, and you win a little bit. They kind of offset each other. Like, let's say you had $25 in the field and a $25 place bet on the 5.
Yeah.
If 5 comes up, you lose the 25 in the field, but you win 35 for the place bet. So you win $10 total.
Right.
That's definitely a hedge, right? You're hedging that field bet, right? And, again, the long run, it's kind of an aggressive way to play because every roll there's a decision. And when that 7 comes up, you lose everything.
Right.
But that's an example of a hedge, so.
Yeah. But the problem with betting the field and hedging it with a 5, 6, and 8, then you're the guy that my dad says, oh, there's that guy that always plays the field and hedges his bets. Right, he talks about those because there are some players out at Rincon who do that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And he talks about them all the time. Why does that guy do that every time?
Well, maybe we'll have your dad do that. That's what we'll have him do from now on.
We'll have him
just do the iron cross.
He would like that because he'd like a decision every time.
Yeah.
And he'd win, right, until that 7 came up, and then he would complain for the next 15 minutes about how often 7's coming up. And I keep telling him, it comes up the same amount of time all the time.
That's right. In the long run. It's the most common number also. Yeah. That's why we see it so often.
Right.
He'll learn.
You know what? It's the most common number when you have, like, as my dad calls it, the bases loaded. When you have a bet on everything, you're playing the come and you've gone up to every number.
Yeah.
7 comes up the most after that.
More than any other number.
More
7
than any
comes
other
up.
number.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does.
Oh, wow. Well, in the news, this is an interesting story. Now, there's a very famous gambler, probably the most famous gambler in the world, named Archie Karas. Now, he's not a household name, and listeners might be thinking, well, I've never heard of him, but I've heard of, like, Phil Hellmuth, right? Or Daniel Negreanu. Well, those are poker players.
Right.
And, there's a certain amount
Jimmy
of
the Greek would be a good example.
Jimmy the Greek would be another example of somebody who's a gambler.
Right. And people had heard of him, Jimmy the Greek. Yeah. But you know what? They didn't hear about him when he was gambling. They heard about him when he started doing football.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's what he got famous from.
Well, Archie Karas is considered maybe the most famous gambler in the world. And there are a lot of stories about how he went to Las Vegas and he turned, $40 into like $20 million playing all sorts of different games, sometimes poker, sometimes craps. I mean,
he's definitely a gambler.
Yeah. I mean, and he's even said, money doesn't mean anything to him. Right. And that's kind of what you have to be if you're going to be a
he's
big
an
time
action
gambler.
junkie is what he is.
Right. So he's probably gone broke as often as he's, made millions.
Right.
He's from Greece. Now your dad was born in Greece. How do you pronounce this name,
God.
His actual name?
Anagiros is his first name.
Yeah.
And oh boy, that's a hard one. I don't even know how to say his last name. Karboniotis?
All right. Well, anyway.
I'll have to ask my dad.
We'll check. But if you do, we won't go into a lot of his history, but it is kind of interesting. If you want to go online, just do a search on Archie Karas. And Karas is spelled Karas. Well, he was recently arrested for cheating at one of the local tribal casinos here, Verona.
Yeah, he cheated here and he was arrested in Las Vegas, right?
That's right. Yeah, they I guess they, kind of kept him under surveillance and they worked with the Las Vegas police. But he is accused of marking cards at Verona while playing blackjack. And to just kind of explain that method of cheating, basically what he would do is he'd make a small mark on certain cards in the deck, probably 10s.
Most likely 10s.
Right, because 10s are important cards in blackjack. And I'm not exactly sure how he marked them, if he used some kind of ink or something.
Yeah,
but
sometimes they have like just a little burr under their fingernail, something that they've inserted that they can just make a little scratch.
Or a little scratch or something, right.
Yeah.
Something subtle so that, if you took a quick look at it, you wouldn't know. But they caught him doing this, and so he's been arrested, and he's looking at, I think they said up to 4 years in jail. They said he cheated the casino out of $8,000. Which is not much when you consider he, has had, millions of dollars at one point. And I'm wondering, I mean, maybe this is a silly question, but why would he do something like this?
Yeah. Maybe just to see if he could do it.
He has been arrested before. I'm not sure if it was for the same kind of thing, but he has, been arrested before.
This isn't a good example here that I'm going to use, but it's kind of like, when we thought we saw a dealer exposing her card.
Uh-huh.
Right. And so we were going to sit there and just, even though we know we shouldn't be doing it, we are looking. Remember, she had the way of...
Right, sure. She was whole carding, basically. She was exposing her whole card.
She was exposing her whole card to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And sometimes we thought we could see it, and whether we did or not. Kind of like when we were dealing craps that one night years ago, and there was that girl dealing blackjack at the table across from us, and the whole night we thought we could see up her skirt.
Right, exactly.
Turns out she was wearing shorts.
She had shorts on, yeah.
Yeah.
So here we couldn't see anything.
Right.
But we're saying, hey, check that out.
Yeah.
Look. No, she had shorts on.
She had shorts on. We were in our 20s, and we got a big kick out of that.
Stupid.
But seriously, you thought you could see her whole card.
Yeah.
And whether we could or not, it didn't matter. But the fact that we were doing it, so maybe he was just doing it just to see if he could do it.
Well, there's a big difference between seeing a dealer's whole card, somebody who's exposing it without knowing it,
right,
due to poor dealing, and actually physically marking cards. I think there's a huge gap.
Well,
the first one's not cheating. I don't think that's just advantage play.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's what I said. It's kind of a poor example.
Yeah.
But it is, you shouldn't be doing it.
Well, I'm not going to agree with you here, Mike.
Yeah.
Shouldn't
just like looking up the girl's skirt. You shouldn't have been doing that, but you did anyway.
No, when you're hole carding, you're just taking advantage of a situation. It's the casino's responsibility to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not like
true.
It's not like you've got some special mirror or something that you're sticking there.
Right. That is true. It is the casino's responsibility to make sure their dealers know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, anyway, why would he do it?
Well, I think you made a good point there. He's kind of an action junkie.
Right.
Probably did it to see he could get away with it. That's some of the excitement for him.
Right.
As a gambler, right? He's gambling by cheating.
Right.
See if he can get away with it.
You see that a lot with petty theft, like shoplifters, right?
Oh, right.
They'll shoplift something that they don't even want or need.
Yeah.
But they want it. They want the action of, I got away with it.
It's for the thrill. Yeah.
Yeah. It's for the thrill. So I'm sure that had something to do in his case.
Yeah.
And the fact that he did it out there at La Casa de Pupu, as my daughters like to call that place.
Verona?
Verona
They've
Casino.
got a nice old name for it.
Yeah, La Casa de Pupu.
Good.
But anyway, I don't particularly mind that he cheated them.
Well, what gets me is that Verona has been involved in cheating scandals in the past.
Right.
So you'd think that'd be one of the last places you'd want to try to cheat because they've gone through this before.
Was it Verona or was it at Viejas? That the dealers were in cahoots?
It was Verona.
Was it Verona where several dealers were in cahoots with some players?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they're no stranger to being cheated, so they're very aware of it. So, plus, the thing, Verona is the home of the Blackjack Hall of Fame.
Right.
And I may get some of the details wrong here, but Verona has made a deal with everybody who's in the Blackjack Hall of Fame. They said, anybody who's in the Hall of Fame can come anytime, get a free room, free golf, maybe even free meals, I'm not sure, as long as they don't play.
Right.
As long as they don't play blackjack, or maybe the casino.
They're so afraid of their good blackjack play.
Right, yeah, exactly. So since it's the home of the Blackjack Hall of Fame, come on in anytime you want. We'll set you up. Just don't play. So
basically what they're saying is if you're in the Blackjack Hall of Fame, you've probably been card counting. And we don't want you card counting in our casino.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I mean... So that's what you have to do to get in the Blackjack Hall of Fame? You got to be a good card counter?
Well, and I don't know how good card counting works today, but yeah, you've got to be a person who can make money at blackjack, and you have to be famous to a certain extent.
Right.
I mean, the really good blackjack players who are making money, probably nobody's heard about, right?
Right.
So,
they want it that way,
yeah,
right?
Exactly,
I mean, they don't want anyone to know.
Yeah, they don't want anybody to know, yeah, so...
Well, that Karas, getting back to this, I see in 1992 through 95, he turned $50 into $40 million.
Yeah. And it's, again, we won't go into a lot of detail, but there's plenty of information about him on the net. He's even got a Wikipedia page. But it is pretty amazing. And again, it was, sometimes it was poker. He's a good poker player. Sometimes it was craps, and you just, you're not going to
I imagine he's just a guy that likes to live on the edge.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have to be that kind of gambler, right? Yeah. So he was just seeing what he could get away with, and why he chose Verona, who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe because it wasn't Vegas.
Well, but I mean, there's so many other places. Yeah. I mean, there's so many casinos around. I don't know. That is really the mystery, is why he chose Barona. But
yeah, Casa de Poo Poo.
He's in jail now. Although he hasn't had a trial yet, but they did arrest him and he's in jail. So.
Speaking of poo poo,
yeah,
talk about craps in London.
So there's this casino in London. It's called the Hippodrome. It's in London, and craps in Europe and in London kind of is a dying game, or even a dead game. It's just not as popular there as it is here.
That's so interesting to me. I don't get it.
For whatever reason, right? Europe, they love...
Yeah, you go to Monte Carlo.
Roulette. And
you'll have roulette, and you'll have a lot of blackjack and baccarat, but you don't see craps.
Yeah. Well, this Casino Hippodrome brought back craps. And some of the patrons were put off by the name of the game, craps.
Craps.
And I guess it's because, again, the game is just not as prevalent as it is here. And so they were put off. These British people were put off by, oh my.
Poo-poo. I don't want to play craps.
Right. So the casino has gotten rid of the name craps, and now it's officially called dice. Yeah. So when you go, and I don't know if this article that I read, I don't know if this is a true story, but it is a good story. Supposedly, an American came into the casino and asked where the craps was. And a cocktail waitress pointed them to the restroom.
To the restroom?
Yeah.
To the crapper?
Yeah, that's a craps.
Well, what's funny about that, dice games, and especially craps, I mean, if you look in American culture and literature, it's always like a back alley. Or we're going to go shoot some dice in the back alley.
Right. Or, yeah. In fact, that's where a lot of Marine or some servicemen, like in World War II, would learn it as, kind of a back room. Yeah.
Oh, I actually ran into a guy once at a craps table who was asking me about the game, hadn't ever played on a table, but he kind of knew from playing wherever he grew up in some, city, playing craps on the street.
Yeah.
And then when I explained to him, he's like, oh, okay, I played this on the street with my buddies.
Yeah.
So he kind of knew the idea. He didn't know the layout and all the intricacies because they're just rolling dice on the street.
Right, yeah. They're just rolling on the street. It's basically coming out and you're trying to get a number, right? You bet against the shooter for them. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sure there's a lot of that. Maybe that has why some of the reason the people in Britain don't like it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, here, when you're a kid and you find out there's a game called craps, it's like, that's when you laugh at it. But once you're an adult, it's like, oh, yeah, craps. You don't even think about it anymore.
No, it's not funny. Poo-poo is funnier.
Yeah, it's much funnier. I wonder if the layout, though, because craps, 2, 3, 12, that's craps.
Right.
So if you're in this casino and you want to make a bet like on any craps, what do you say? Yeah, any poo-poo?
Any poo-poo?
Maybe it says it there.
Give me a $6 three-way any poo-poo.
I guess, if you just say a $3 any, they know what you're talking about. But
right. Yeah, I wonder what their terminology would be there.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's pounds there too. So give me a 1 pound any craps.
Yeah. Right. Oh boy. Now we're getting on a whole different level here.
This is excellent. This is what the podcast is all about. Quality.
Because lately I've had a lot of pounds of craps. I'll tell you that at Rincon.
Yeah, our luck has not been good. Oh well. All right, let's move on. The Global Gaming Expo, called G2E, was this last week in Las Vegas. We didn't go, but it's basically a trade show where companies come out and show off new slot machines, new games, that kind of thing. And one thing that caught my eye, IGT, which is a big slot manufacturer, they've come out with a skill-based slot machine based on the classic video game Centipede. And anybody who grew up in the 80s remembers Centipede as an arcade game, one of the more popular ones.
Right.
And in fact, I remember when I was in high school at the time, and when we go to arcades, it'd be like a group of us, and the girls didn't want to sit and play video games, right? The guys liked doing it, but the girls didn't. But Centipede was one game that the girls liked to play.
Right. Well, and for those of you who aren't familiar with Centipede, there's a game now that my daughters play that's very similar, but it's not called Centipede anymore. What's that called? They have it on their phones and stuff.
Oh, I don't know.
The balls drop down, and it's kind of it looks a lot like Centipede.
Okay,
but it's not called Centipede. It's something else, and it's similar to that.
All right. Well, this slot machine they've come out. It's a Centipede slot machine, and when you get into a bonus round, you actually play the game. And the better you do, the more you make in this bonus round.
Yeah.
So it's actually a skill-based game where the better you are, the more you can win.
That would be dangerous for.
Well, I mean, they've got it set up so that they still have an edge on you. There's probably like a maximum that you can win on the bonus that would still be,
So
still
you
have
couldn't be like
edge.
a great video game player, and then you've turned your $2 winnings into 800.
No. It's not like you can just sit there like the real old Centipede machine and just keep playing. Yeah. There's probably a maximum, but the better you do, the more you win. Yeah. So this may really kind of revolutionize slot play because, the innovations that have come over the years is basically just kind of bells and whistles.
Right.
But this is kind of...
They're adding skill to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm waiting for the asteroid one to come out.
Oh, man. Well, I mean...
I would love that.
This probably be close behind Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
Right?
Pac-Man,
that kind of thing.
Asteroid.
Oh, of course.
The thing about those games, though, I wonder what the casinos think of them because... I don't know how long that bonus thing goes on. There's got to be a time. It's got to be quick. Because you're not putting more money in there, right? They don't like that.
Right.
I mean, anything that wastes money, time. I mean, now the bonus thing on a lot of those machines is, pick a high or low number.
Right.
And a card flips over and, if you pick high and you get it, you double your money or something.
You make a good point that it would be, you'd spend a lot of time on the bonus, but these aren't in casinos yet. I have a feeling they're going to love it though, just because they're going to be popular.
Oh, they'll be very popular.
I think so.
Yeah. But it's just like, the casino is about the bottom line. The bottom line is you need that slot machine to keep being pulled, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you do.
Yeah, I don't.
You don't want wasted time.
Yeah, you make a good point. The thing is, those slots, it's so easy for casinos to just have slots, right? I mean, they're just money makers. So,
yeah.
We'll see.
Some 85-year-old lady playing Centipede, and she's there for a half hour trying to get through a certain level.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's the thing, right? I don't know. Maybe it builds. Maybe, the next bonus, it's higher. I don't know the details on it, but I'll be anxious to see this. This will be kind of fun. All right, let's move on to the poker home game segment. Now, this is normally the segment where we talk about poker games that you would not find in a casino poker room, but that you might play when you get together with your buddies for a poker home game. Tonight, though, we want to talk more generally about lowball, because lowball can kind of be confusing to people, even people who are familiar enough with poker, maybe play a lot of Hold'em.
Yeah.
Lowball is a completely different animal.
Well, yeah. And some people think it's just instead of high, I want low, but there's more to it than that.
Right. The typical lowball is played, sometimes it's called California lowball is like the original word. But when we talk about lowball, we talk about games like Raz, which is lowball, Omaha 8 or better, which is a high-low split, that kind of thing. There are lowball games where you really are honestly trying to make, all lowball games, you're trying to make a bad poker hand.
Right.
And there are some games where you're literally trying to make a bad poker hand, like deuce to 7 triple draw.
Right.
But most lowball games, there are some exceptions where you're not really trying to get literally the worst poker hand.
It involves the ace more than anything else.
Most lowball games, aces are low. They're not high.
Right.
And you also ignore straights and flushes. So those don't come into play. So if you've got a flush, you just ignore them in lowball.
Yeah, ace 2, 3, 4, 5.
So ace 2, 3, 4, 5, also called the wheel, would be the best hand in a lowball game.
Yeah, and they could be all hearts.
Yeah.
You've got a straight flush.
Yeah.
But
it's considered a 5 high. You ignore the fact that in regular poker it would be a straight. You ignore the fact that ace is usually high, and instead it's a 5 high. I've got a low poker hand, it's 5 high.
Right.
And so that's how you typically play lowball.
Yeah. That's a good distinction you make, but because in deuce to 7 triple draw, ace is bad.
Right, aces are bad, and
you want a low hand, and straights count, and flushes
do count. Yeah,
yeah. So that's the big difference there, and you'll see that deuce to 7 triple draw played a lot.
Yeah. Oh, and it's in the World Series of Poker.
And it is confusing to people who are going to play a strict lowball game.
Right. Exactly. But so we won't talk about deuce to 7 or games like that anymore, because again, normally the vast majority of lowball games is how we described it. Aces are low. You ignore straights and flushes. Sometimes when you're learning lowball, you will have some trouble figuring out who has the better hand. If two people have hands and you're looking at them, who has the better hand? And here's the simple way to do it. I'll say two ways. First of all, you look at the two hands and you find the highest card in the two hands, right?
Right. As long as there's no pairs, just look for the highest card.
Right. That's a good point. As long as there are no pairs, look for the highest card in the hand. And whoever's highest card is lower, that person has the lower hand and that person will win lowball.
Right.
You don't need to look at the other four cards.
Right.
Right. And sometimes that's a pretty simple rule, but sometimes when you're learning, you'll look at a hand and think, oh, he's got an ace and a deuce. He must have the best low hand. No, you got to look at the highest card in the 5-card poker hand and compare those two.
Yeah.
If they're the same, let's say, both hands, they have an 8 as their highest card. Then you go to the next highest card and compare. And again, whoever has the lower.
Right.
Somebody told me kind of a cool way to do this. What you could do is arrange all the cards from highest to lowest and pretend that it's a 5-digit number where an ace is a 1.
Okay.
So if you had like 8732 ace, that would be 87,321. Right?
Okay.
You do that for both hands, and whoever has the lower number, that's the lower poker hand.
That's the lower poker hand. Right? It's perfectly accurate. It's a hard way to do it.
I don't know. I mean, really, if you're explaining it to someone and they're just not getting it, it's just put it out there.
You've entered math into here, and I mean, you and I can do that real quick. Most people cannot. Well, if they just know that 8 is higher than 7, and so they go from there.
I think this will work. I know there are plenty of people out there who get together for a poker home game like once a year.
Right.
And you've got guys who've got cheat sheets there to show the ranks of hands.
Right.
Right. And guys who just, don't know what a raise is. I mean, right? And
so then there's going to be a big argument. My 87,421 is lower than your 87,531.
That's right. I listen to a gambling podcast, and I don't know what a straight or a flush is.
And the other guy's like 87,000. We're playing cards.
That's right. That's right. It has nothing to do with numbers. It's pairs.
I don't see any zeros on any of these cards. What's going on?
Anyway, so that's how you can compare two hands. Now, sometimes you'll be playing low with 7 cards, like Raz is a 7-card stud game. And in that case, again, you only look at the 5 cards that make the best low ball hand, just like you would in regular 7-card stud. You're only using 5 cards, right?
Right.
So in 7-card stud, you get rid of anything that makes a pair or, like a high card, and you'd find just the 5 lowest cards that you can, and that would be the low card.
Right.
Now, let's say you're playing a low ball game, and just to keep it simple, a 5-card low ball game. And it turns out that both players end up with a pair. Doesn't happen that often, but it could. So who would have the better low ball hand? Well, it's pretty simple. Let's say
the lowest pair.
Yeah, the lowest pair. If somebody has a pair of 3s, they only have 5 cards and they ended up with a pair of 3s,
right.
And another player has 5 cards and they have a pair of 8s, well, the pair of 3s would win. Again, it doesn't come up very often, but if you were playing just a 5-card poker,
right.
low game, and 2 players were in there, it could.
I'll throw you a fastball here.
All right.
What happens if I've got a pair of aces?
Uh-huh.
And you've got a pair of 4s.
So aces versus 4s. And this has come up before in our poker game. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it this week, because the issue actually came up at our home game recently.
Uh-huh.
Which hand wins in a lowball game? A pair of aces wins. Because remember,
it's the lowest card.
Aces are low.
They're 1.
They're 1. Right. That's right. Exactly. Now, when you first hear this, oh gosh, we've got to both play a pair. Well, I'm playing a pair of 4s. You've got a pair of aces. I've got the pair of 4s. I win. No, you don't. I've got a pair of aces. Well, pair of aces. That's the best. We're playing low ball. Aces are low. It's kind of a hard concept. Everybody's confused the first time they hear it, but just think about it for a second. Aces are low. Why would the fact that they pair suddenly make them the highest pair?
No, they're low.
We've
always agreed to that, but some people have a hard time with that.
Well, and certainly if you're playing a real game like Raz, and again, this comes up so rarely that people generally don't have to deal with it. But if you were heads up in a Raz game, and you were both betting aggressively, you could end up at the end where both of you have like 3 pair out of your 7 cards.
Right.
And so, you're forced to play a pair, right?
Right.
Or you say you have a full house, you would be forced to play a pair. And this actually has happened, I think, twice in our home game, where aces it's come to that, and a pair of aces won low.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it is confusing. As much cards as we play. I mean, we play a lot of cards. Mm-hmm. And we are so familiar with almost every card game, but we'll play deuce to 7 triple draw. And how many times have you seen me stay in with an ace?
Yes.
Thinking it's low ball.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
and in that one game, that was the one thing we talked about where it's high.
Right.
And I'll flip my hand over as proud as a peacock. I got 6, 4, 3, 2 ace.
Yeah.
And everyone will look at me, ace is high.
You got ace high.
So the guy with 9 beats me.
That's right.
But it's so easy to get confused on that.
Well, see, don't confuse it more here, because we're talking about aces being low now.
I know. But even in low ball, right, you have to remember they're low. And
yes,
people will
exactly.
get confused. They get a pair of aces and fold.
Yeah. There was actually a game we were playing once. You were involved in this. And it was a 5-card stud game. I won't go into a lot of details because we had like wild cards and what have you. But at the end of it, 5-card, every single player at the table had a pair showing. And there were like 4 or 5 people. And it was a high-low declare game. And you had like a pair of 3s or something like that. And a friend of ours had a pair of aces, and he's somebody that we don't play with very often. And it was in the middle of the hand. I wasn't involved in it.
Yeah, I think I remember
right?
this now.
And so I couldn't say anything in the middle of the hand. It just wouldn't have been fair.
No, you can't talk about it.
But you knew that he would go high because he's thinking, oh, great, I've got a pair of aces. And you knew that he would only go high, and so you could go low with your threes and be okay.
Right.
If he'd known that aces are low, a pair of aces is the lowest pair in a low ball game, he would have gone low, and he would have gotten half the pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, I go high and get the whole pot.
You went low. No, you went low. You went low and got half the pot.
I went low and got half the pot. That's right. Yeah.
But so that's really the whole reason that we wanted to talk about low ball this week is that rare case where you actually have to play a pair
right.
in your low ball hand. And
it will come up a lot with 5-card games.
Certainly more in 5-card games.
Yeah, because in 7 cards, you can throw the pair out a lot of times, right? Once you get 2 pair. I don't know.
Can it even happen in a 7-card game? Because you could, if you had 2 pair, you'd always, I guess if you had 4 aces, would be the only time you'd have to play a pair of aces.
Right.
Right? Because if you had any other kind of full house or...
you'd throw the pair away and keep one of the aces.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. So in a 7-card game, I don't think it would ever come up unless you had 4 aces. Yeah. Right. But in 5-card games, sure, where you only can play those 5, it could happen. Right. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's our kind of non-poker home game segment for this episode.
Low ball's a fun game.
I agree.
I like low ball.
You see, you say that now.
I like low ball. I do not like Raz.
That's what Raz is low ball.
Yeah, but it's 2 things here.
Yeah.
It's the betting structure I don't like.
You don't like 7-card stud betting structure?
No, I'd rather play 5-card draw low ball.
We have never played 5-card low ball ever.
But I would like that better than 7-card.
See, I can't believe a word you're saying. You say you love low ball, you hate Raz, which is the low ball game.
Maybe I hate Raz because I never win at it. I don't know. Maybe that might have a little bit to do with it.
All right. See, now you're being honest. Finally, we're getting some honesty out of you for once. I like that. Anyway, if any of you out there have some home games you'd like us to talk about, drop us a line at you can bet on that at gmail.com.
Yeah, don't forget
I always
the
mess
Gmail.
it up at those. And also, if you go to our webpage, on the left-hand side of the page, there's a link that says Poker Home Games. If you click on that, it'll take you to a list of all the games that we've talked about and the episodes that we talked about them on.
Yeah, when are we going to run out of games to talk about?
Oh, man, I know. We'll just be making stuff up, right?
Okay, what's going to happen first? We're going to run out of games to talk about, or we're going to win the fire bet?
Oh, we'll run out of games, I think, to talk about.
Really?
Yeah, we're never going to win that fire bet. It's ridiculous. Look, we're just, yeah.
God, I want to win that fire bet so bad.
The thing is, really, we're just going to, at the end, we're going to be like 100 episodes in, and okay, today's poker home game. 5-card draw and 7s are wild. Yeah. If you have any poker home games you'd like to talk about, drop us a line.
We go through all the different wild cards.
Right.
Next week, 8s will be wild next week. Stay tuned.
Don't miss it. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Email us with questions and comments at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. That's the address to email. Visit our website, youcanbetOnThat.com, where you can check out our show notes and leave comments. Also, follow us on Twitter at You Can Bet on That. We're going to be tweeting like crazy in Atlantic City in a month.
Yeah.
And anytime we're on our way to a casino or at a casino, we always tweet too to let you know that we're there and maybe you can meet up with us. And you've still got some money to give away, I think, at the craps table, right?
Yes, it's still the $60 bet, but when we're in Atlantic City, I'm going to tuck away $100 bill in my wallet.
We're going to give it away in Atlantic City. I guarantee.
We got to do it in Atlantic City.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
So $100. Just walk me to the craps table, say, "Oh, you're Mike from You Can Bet on That."
Yeah,
and boom, $100. You know what? You don't even have to put it in the pass line. Just play with us.
What are you going to do? You're going to give them like a $100 chip or a bill or what? Write them a check.
Write them a check.
Traveler's check.
Here's my credit card.
Yeah, nice. Hey, like us on Facebook too. We've got a Facebook page, facebook.com/You Can Bet on That. And if you go into iTunes, please give us a good review. Well, give us a review. If it's not good, just give us some kind of review. It helps us to get more listeners. What do you want to say at the end here, Mike? Last time it was Go Raiders, which was offensive to me.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
I almost edited that out.
Not going to be Go Raiders. Yeah. Go Jacksonville.
Go Jacksonville. Well, sure. Why not?
I think Jacksonville's a good pick this week.
What?
Yeah, they're getting 11.5 points.
Oh, against the spread.
Against the spread, pick
right.
Jacksonville, take the 11.5.
Right.
They got to win sooner or later. St. Louis is ripe for a loss.
All right. Okay. I guess
that's my sports tip of the week.
I guess
you'll probably hear this after the game, so I'll either look like an idiot or a genius.
I'll try to post this before the game's out.
Okay.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you later.